You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner, and with us right now is Sender Rapaport. Since 2005, he established Masiba, which is a soup kitchen providing kosher meals throughout the metropolitan New York area, Hasidic Jew, but yet he's been in the forefront of delivering to Haiti and other disaster spots where they need food. But just recently, he went to Kentucky where he actually delivered food, not just sending out, but actually delivered, went down and spent a couple of days in Kentucky. So, Senator, good to have you back again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. I like the new setup.
Yes, thank you. We broadcast both video and audio, so that's the new thing these days. So, but this is something new for you too, because you have the largest kosher soup kitchen, and you're in New York, and you're in Brooklyn, and I believe it's in Queens too. You have, but now this is something new where you're taking the food on the road. So Kentucky was devastated by tornadoes. So tell us about it. You went down there to Kentucky. There were almost no Jews where you were. You brought tractor trailer loads of food. You wore your Hasidic garb with the beard and the whole works. So what was it like to be a Jew in Kentucky delivering kosher food to people who don't care about kosher because they're not Jewish?
So yeah, it was very surreal in many ways. We had lots of partners. So the way it works is there are lots of good people that make it happen. I like to say Masbia is like when you go in the mall and you see that pony that you put in some quarters, and if you put in some quarters, it shakes and sings Old McDonald's. That's Masbia and a charity. A lot of good people come together, put in the quarters, and we were able to do it. So what does it mean? We took relief to Kentucky. Lots of people sponsored relief. Companies like Kedem, Geffen, Menashevitz, they sponsored the food. Other friends that sponsored hand sanitizers and body sanitizer and surface wipes and all kinds of things that people donated that we were able to send in places where there's no running water and people don't have electricity. So we gave them some relief, something to work with. Now, the way we have done in the past, in the last couple of years, we ended up sending relief to different places. I only recently, like a week ago, got photos of our containers that we sent to Haiti arriving in Haiti, right? Because it goes by boat, and but now we wanted to be there when it arrives and be there bringing it, and not only just sending supply, be there, help people set up shop. So it ended up a very interesting thing happened where I was in communication with reporters on the ground. And I kind of settled on working together with a family-owned restaurant that was, so to speak, on the outskirts of Mayfield. So Mayfield is where it hit hard because it's a very like a little bit like a city feel, although like nothing compared to what we're used to in New York. But it's not just farmland. It's a city of 10,000 people. And the tornado hit very hard over there. We were going to people who don't have electricity, who are more the outskirts of that Mayfield, and we were bringing food to them. This restaurant is also a couple of minutes out of Mayfield, so they had electricity, they had resources. So right away they started feeding first responders. They started feeding people who are in need. And we then came to them and said, do you guys need help? And they said, well, yes, our griddle broke down. These things that, not like a grill, the flat thing where you make your, the sunny side up, or a griddle, it's called in the restaurant business. Their griddle burnt down because it was going for 8 days straight. Their warmer was totally burnt out because they were just, using it all the time. So they asked us for equipment. We brought them knives and peelers and all kinds of anything you need in a kitchen, because they're a 25-year-old restaurant that kind of, is now maximizing on everything they got, and it was starting to break down on them after a couple of days. So we came with that. We came with food and supplies. And we, not only that, we were a group. Naomi Nachman joined us, Rabbi Simon from the OU, different people. Zipporah Laub joined us. Chef Ruben Diaz from Masbia joined us. There is a lady Chumi Diamond. She was, I think, a legislator in the five towns somewhere
Actually in Long Beach.
in Long Beach. Yeah. Okay, so you know that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay, so people came down and we literally were there cooking, peeling, dicing, chopping, and then what was very different than I remember here in New York, Hurricane Sandy. Hurricane Sandy, we would go to, I remember going to the Young Israel Basewater, and there were dozens and dozens of families there because they put a generator there. And if we brought a bunch of food there, automatically was able to, just distribute it to all the people that were there in the shul. Or if we went to the Park Slope Armory, there were like 600 beds of senior citizens in one room. And if we bought 600 dinners, we're able to give it out there. That didn't work here. Everybody is spread out. So I remember, like, there was one night we went with the locals. We went to deliver relief food for people. It turned out that it was dark, but when it was dark, because there was no electricity. So imagine you're in Kentucky, farmland, and you're going to a building complex. So a building complex means something that has two stories. It's not a building complex like we think of a building complex. And there are people there. So there's generators roaring because people don't have electricity, but they only put on the generator the minimum, right? They can't just redo the whole building. So everybody gets a little bit of light where they need it. Every little light blinds you because it's so dark outside. There's still twigs all over the parking lot, like the parking area. We walk over it. We arrive to the person. We ring the bell. Nobody hears. We have to bang the door to out noise the roaring of the generators. And the people come in and we say, do you have any pets? Do you need pet food? Do you need food? Do you need sanitizers? And kind of. And then we walk back to the car and we notice there are people in a car actually because it's cold, right? It's not. So people decided to spend the night in the car rather than in the apartment. So we knock on the car and say, do you need any help? So images like that is something that
it's seared in your mind.
Very much so. And then only on the way home did I actually go and say, let me see the actual, like where the epicenter of the destruction was, because we were chasing all the people we got like little maps where we kind of, okay, we're taking this route. We're going to check on all the houses over here. And everybody got like going for a couple of hours and checking out who needs help in different areas. But then on the way home, I went to where the big destruction was. And you could have, it's impossible to even understand if you don't see it. And maybe some of the photos explain that, but destruction in this way, it looks different than any other destruction because you see a car or a hurricane, things happen in a particular way. A hurricane, you could see like a tree. It didn't just topple over. It's kind of stripped from all its branches and twigs, and it's still standing. Like it has all kinds of like weird dimensions. The destruction of a hurricane has like a very, almost like a more vicious dimension to it, like a very creepy.
That's even more than a hurricane. It was a tornado, which is even more devastating.
Yes. So the tornado, it does something weird. Like I remember seeing a school bus, only the front, like the hood, the front hood. Then I walk we're in the car, so we go 2 blocks later and we see a destroyed school bus, right? It's like things are everywhere, all over the place, far away from each other, very different than what comes to mind when you think of destruction. So when we left, I ended up going more. I remember seeing that they had 2 water towers in Mayfield. One of them actually collapsed. Imagine the spritz of that collapse. I mean, but also kind of the devastation. You see this huge tank all kind of like destroyed, collapsed, everything going blocks and blocks, and seeing so much destruction. It's very
devastating.
sad.
And I'm glad that you came down there. You brought down food with a whole group. So let me ask you the question: what was the reaction? Because I would assume that in that part of Kentucky, they probably never saw an Orthodox Jew. I'm not sure regular Jews, Orthodox, Hasidic Jew, even less so. So how did they react to you? What what interactions did you have based on religion? Because here you are, you're bringing all this kosher food from New York. So I'd like to hear, you made a big Kiddush Hashem, sanctification of God's name, but I want to hear exactly what the natives thought about all of this.
So I'm sure, like, wherever I walked, I was turning heads, so to speak, because it was very like wherever we went, it was like people were like curious what's going on and whatever. But the people receiving food, it was very little conversation about who. Like, I just wanted to make the people feel good. I said we came all the way from Brooklyn, New York, or we came all the way from New York, just so people feel that far away people care. I would say that just so people, it gives them like comfort if people from far away made the effort to come. But other than that, I try to make it a non-issue. I'm pretty sure there's like lots of like
No,
everybody.
no, it's not. You weren't saying, "Hey, I'm Jewish. I'm bringing food to you," but they had to know who you are because, like I said, you're dressed in the reckle, the Hasidish hat, the tzitzis hanging out, the big beard, the pay.
Definitely, they definitely knew, and yes, but I try. It was interesting. There's also like in Middle America, just like we as Jews, we don't like when people think of us as monolithic, like all the same. There's so many different like people when they say they're Christian or Catholic or whatever. There's just so many. The evangelicals. There's just so many different ones, and we were trying to come there because we understood that it's going to be the week of a holiday, and everybody wants to be with their family. So now it's not a Jewish holiday, so let the Jews come and kind of help out. But then I learned that some of the locals there who are like very devout Christians also don't keep Christmas. Like there's some whatever. There's all kinds of like. But
all kinds of permutations and.
Yeah, so I couldn't. To me, we were there to help them, and I made very little to do on the ground. I'm pretty sure in their minds and in their smiles, it gave it away that they're excited, and they would never think of ourselves being there, and everything was like unbelievably nice and smooth, but it was also like a wow. But I tried to make it a non-issue. I tried to. Totally.
No, you didn't want to highlight, but the fact is, though, you do stand out, and which is good. I'm saying that in a very positive way. And you got extra food and money. You raised especially just for the Kentucky project.
Yes, we end up sending. Yeah, so we have a special website. We do all our relief work through that, which is called masbiarelief.org, and we raised 3 trailer loads of sanitizing supply and 1 trailer load of food, and then we bought restaurant supplies for maybe $10,000 of different equipment and food. We arrived at that restaurant and they were almost like out of spices, and so we went back to Restaurant Depot when I remember going with Naomi Nachman, and because I got a whole list of spices, things that I personally no clue what they are. And so she was able to identify, and we worked and we loaded up wagons and wagons at Restaurant Depot with supplies and stuff. So they can be still using. They're probably using stuff now. I mean, just so you know that what happens in a hurricane, there's so many shifts. We learned that by COVID, but not a hurricane. I said a tornado.
Yeah, right.
What happens in a disaster? To get roaster pans, the regular pans, you get your cholent for a kiddush, right? These big catering pans. You had to go 150 miles in every direction. There was not to be found.
Wow.
So things like that. We went and we bought stuff for them. We went and we traveled. We went back to Nashville. We kind of like try to schlep things from everywhere so they have the supply there what they need.
Amazing. I want to salute you, Senator Rapaport. You do amazing work in New York with the soup kitchen. So many people, unfortunately, in the age of COVID, even more people need the services of Masiba and the food, and whether it's holiday time, especially more hungry Jews are desperate for food. You do a great job here in New York, but the fact that you have given to Haiti and other trouble spots around the world is right up here. You actually went, not just sent out the food, but delivered the food and brought cheer to hundreds of people in the Kentucky area that were starving, devastated by the tornadoes. So not enough words can describe what you did. So kudos to you, Senator Rapaport of Masiba, the CEO, the founder, for what you did, and continued success, because this is so important. Feeding people, there's nothing like it.
Thank you so much. And yes, like I said before, and we were still sending stuff because on our webpage, we have a wish list. So people are sending through Amazon supplies. There's a list of items that they can still need. So thank you, Zev, for having me, and keep up.
Give up the address. Give up the address where people can find you online. So people.
So it's MasibaRelief.org, and you can do /tornado relief. MasibaRelief.org/tornado relief. And you'll see there a place to donate and a place to buy directly that will actually go delivered. Amazon will deliver it to this restaurant. It's called Southern Reds Barbecue. That's the restaurant we were working out of.
They should open up a kosher branch in New York, Kentucky style.
Yes, we joked about it a lot.
I can imagine. Anyway, Senator, thank you for the work, what you've done. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Talkline Communications Network, America's leading Jewish radio and TV network since 1981. For continuous, nonstop Jewish broadcasting, please go right now online to talklinecommunications.com. For more information on all of Talkline's Jewish radio and TV shows, please call 212-769-1925 or email info@talklinecommunications.com.